evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers. My name is Vivienne Ziner, and I'm honored to be addressing you here today. I'm what can be called a pinch hitter. I was asked this past Thursday if I could speak today, and I'm delighted to do so, but a lot of physical material I would have liked to distribute to you could not be prepared in such a short time. So after I speak, I'm going to ask those of you who would like any information or data to give me your contact info so that I can forward you some information and resources to you. I want to thank and acknowledge the fabulous speakers who've been speaking to you thus far. Yasher Kolach to you, and I am honored to be in your esteemed company. Now, before I begin, I'm going to give everybody here homework. I love being in this position. Tonight, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to go home and thank Stephen Harper for taking the position that he has, for being such a strong supporter of Israel. If you don't do it, if we don't do it, if we don't take the bull by the horns and say thank you to those who put up for us, we are leaving a vacuum that is a very dangerous vacuum, and he deserves it. So, I'm asking you please to make sure that that's the first thing you do, and the conservative government, and if you really want to like stoch somebody, you can say to Justin Trudeau just how fabulous we think Mr. Harper is. Okay. I love being in a receptive place. When I was very young, which was a very long time ago, in my early 20s, I had the privilege of living and working in Washington, D.C. I was the advertising and merchandising coordinator for the American Railroad Corporation, for Amtrak. All my friends were the brilliant young Turks, not literally but figuratively, who had graduated from Harvard and UPenn and Yale, all the top Ivy League schools. And they were all working for the senators and the congressmen in the United States, and they were working for the public relations firms which were sprouting up like mushrooms in Washington and New York at the time. Well, how come? Why was there such an upswing in PR firms in DC and in New York at this time? The answer, and this is really, really important, so I want you all to really listen. Petrodollars. This was the time when the Arabs started hiking the price of oil globally and making themselves uber rich. They were buying everything: properties, businesses, yachts, cars, countries, and public opinion. Some Arab sheiks were buying PR solely for their own egos. But there were other Arabs and Arab countries, notably Saudi Arabia, and Arab politicians who understood the opportunity that they had to buy and change public opinion vis-a-vis Israel and the Arab world. And they did. And how do I know? Because it was my friends, all my friends who were working for all of the PR companies and the lobbying groups, and they were all telling me on an ongoing basis in real time what was going on all the time. They told me that the Arabs had said straight out that they knew it would take them 20 or 30 or 40 years to infiltrate and mold public opinion against Israel and make the U.S. and the rest of the world pro-Arab. They had the money, they had the patience, they had the plan. So how did they do this? Well, they said they were going to buy Time Life magazine, and they did. They said they were going to buy Newsweek, and they did. They bought journalists like Evans and Novak. They funded universities and professors. They lobbied and bought politicians like President Jimmy Carter's brother, and then Jimmy Carter. They bought media personalities, news outlets. They bought brains, influence, and power. And they accomplished and surpassed what they had set out to do. So what did I do? I had this information. I called my friends at AIPAC, which was the American-Israel Public Relations, Hezbollah kind of whatever, and I asked to meet them, and they said yes, they agreed. So when I told them this, what did they do? And I can still see this like it was yesterday. They answered, Vivienne, what are you talking? We are the Israelis. Everybody loves us. No one will ever take them seriously. So as my son JJ would say, yeah, right. So point number one, what is happening now, 20, 30, 40 years later, is not by accident or by the natural progression of history. This is a brilliant, long-range, strategic, well-planned campaign to disenfranchise, isolate, and demonize Israel and the Jewish people. Thank you. And I'm not angry with them for doing it. I'm angry and frustrated that we, the Jews, didn't realize what was happening, that our leaders have been so smug and self-congratulatory and did not see what was happening and did not react and did not respond. Whenever people say to me that the Jews control the media, I always say, Alavai. I wish we did. We don't. We Jews have really missed the boat when it comes to public relations and public opinion. For example, and this is just a microcosmic little example, many times when the Palestinians would use spokespeople, they would get some beautiful, slow-eyed Palestinian woman who would speak so softly and beautifully, and I mean, you fell in love with her. And what did we get? Over and over, the Israelis would get some middle-aged, paunchy, balding guy with a horrible, thick accent to be their spokesperson. We would sound strident, we would sound arrogant, we would sound unfeeling, and they would win the hearts and sympathy without even trying. The world, our world, changed in September 2001, not on September 11th, but at Durban 1. I remember hearing Erwin Kotler speak about Durban on or around September 9th, 2001, about how the anti-racism symposium had been hijacked totally as an anti-Israel and by extension anti-Jewish hate fest. It was a game changer. It was now legitimate to come out openly and blatantly against Israel and against Jews. The world had changed. It appears to me now that Jews have not understood or accepted that those who hate Israel do so with the fury and the commitment to destroy her. The larger established Jewish organizations are careful to focus on their long-term mandates and have not confirmed or worked on the issue of anti-Semitism that exists here and globally. When I was growing up, Jewish leadership was more organic and inclusive. This is no longer the case, with increased complexity and competitiveness amongst the organizations to get the funds. There is a zashtil attitude. Let's be quiet, let's not comment on what's happening, let's not react too hastily, let's not offend anyone, let's be conciliatory, it'll get better, it'll go away. Only guess what? It doesn't. It just gets worse. Anti-Semitism is getting more public, more acceptable, more open. From defacing property, to mugging people, to openly defying the law. When the University of Toronto was first approached by a group who wanted to start a little activity called Apartheid Week, The university went to some of our so-called leaders and asked them if they should grant this group permission to hold this event. And do you know what the response was? I'm paraphrasing here, but it's close enough. Of course they should get a permit. It's freedom of speech. We can handle this kind of thing. It'll just die out. Really? Really? Well, now that Anti-Israel Apartheid Week, which started in Toronto, has gone global, is in most universities worldwide, has spawned and nurtured so many offshoots of itself, has certainly contributed to sanctions and boycotts and BDS. Well, I guess it's kind of safe to say they were wrong. Point 2. Voice your opinion. Own your opinion. When you have your opinion, back them up with facts. But everyone has a responsibility to speak up. You are all leaders of the Jewish people. You are all leaders of the Jewish community. Own it. If you don't agree with other voices, Jewish or non-Jewish, established or not, or grassroots, let them know. Send letters. Copy other people, other groups on your letters. Start a petition telling them that they do not speak for you. When they phone you to fundraise, tell them your position. They are a business. Their business is raising funds for Jewish causes. So, you tell them where you want them to direct your funds, to the causes that you care about. Tell them, these established organizations, what keeps you up at night, what Jewish students are going through on their campuses, what anti-Israel campaigns are resulting in. You can always direct your funds right on a check where you want it to be spent. That's your right. How does democracy function? Democracy is not based solely on votes or voting at election time. It is democracy because of the process of inclusion at all levels of decision-making. This applies globally to all levels of governance. Schools, universities, city council, community organizations, governments at all levels. Change is made by voicing your opinion and being heard from committees, form committees, write letters, create petitions, sign petitions, express your support as well as your displeasure. These actions create the momentum to effect change. That's how democracies work effectively. Constituents express an opinion to their leaders, opinions get voted on, and real change can happen. Let me give you a microcosm. Last year, I received an alarming phone call from a fellow mother at Bishop Strong's school. She told me that the spring curriculum for grade 11 English was not only The Merchant of Venice, but also, wait for it, the Rachel Corrie story. So the administration's position was that they would not allow for interference in their choice of curriculum. Well, when we organized 10 parents to arrive en masse at the headmaster's office, somehow we got their attention, and within 15 minutes, the Rachel Corrie story was removed from the curriculum. Believe me, if we had not supported these parents in this matter, this would not have happened. And if they didn't know where to go to, it would not have happened. The groundwell of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment is overwhelming. If we do not actively and vigilantly react and respond to this situation, we leave a vacuum. And believe me, this vacuum will be filled with vitriol and hatred. For the last 10 years, over 150,000 immigrants arrived in Toronto and the GTA per year. Within these numbers, many people have arrived who have a bias against Israel and the Jews. There are now over 1 million, 1 million, Andrea, what did you write here? Anyways, we know how dangerous a situation that can be. Immigrant groups have formed active communities, have selected their own leaders, have their own agenda, and are creating their own political platforms. And they're right, and they should. But we need to ally with those who choose democracy and freedom. We need to ally ourselves with receptive Hindus, Christians, Muslims, anybody and everybody who has the potential to be our friends. If we leave a vacuum, I'm going to repeat it again, it will be filled. This year, 2014, is a very important time in our history, in the history of Toronto. It is an election year at the city, and we better get involved in this election big time. Did you know that World Pride is coming to Toronto this year? Toronto, Ontario, Canada is hosting World Pride in 2014. And along with Pride comes Queer. Queers Against Israeli Apartheid. This is not good. In about 2010, I thought I had fallen down into Alice's hole in Wonderland when I started hearing about Queer. Queers Against Israeli Apartheid? Like what? Israel, the haven of gay rights, the Mecca, if you'll excuse the pun, of gay and lesbian rights. These are from gays who support, like, Iran, where they hang gays, Uganda, death sentences for gays, Lebanon and Syria, where they beat up gays, like, really? So I went to City Hall. I think the first time that I went on this issue was in 2011, I think, to fight Queer. Wow. What an eye-opener. The rhetoric, the vitriol, the hostility was unbelievable. We had all these really earnest Jewish activist types, like me, who, with well-intentions, were discussing facts like the acceptance of gay rights in Israel and no gay rights throughout the Middle East, and the other side, Queer, with people like Now Magazine, who had their photographers photographing all of us, and their friends who were harassing all of us, and they were hassling our activists, and their supporters were flat out, in your face, no questions asked, espousing hatred and misinformation. But what was the most frightening part of the whole experience? Not the crazies that you can recognize pretty well, no. It was the counselors on council who support Queer, your city council, your counselors, your tax dollars. So, and I'm just going to out them because I'm going to out them. So Adam Vaughn, who I like to call the gray ghost, was flitting back and forth quarterbacking for Queer. Gord Perks, Kirsten Tam Wong, wow, it was really, really scary. And that's where we have a huge responsibility and an opportunity this year with the municipal elections. Opportunity one. Get involved in the 2014 elections. Find out what the councillors stand for. Find out, get active, get involved, and make a difference. I am very much a Pollyanna. I always make lemonade from lemons. So what good came from my attending the City Hall meetings and fighting Queer? Well, I met some extraordinary activists, and together we have created some terrific organizations. First of all, we started Stop Sponsoring the Hatred, which was created to ask corporate sponsors of the Pride Parade to withhold their sponsorship if Queer marched in the Pride Parade. Queer, with its swastikas, its anti-Semitic and anti-Jewish drivel, its hate slogans, its violence, and just pure unmitigated hate, So we contacted people like the TD Bank and other sponsors. We wrote petitions, we sent letters, we protested, and we expected our leaders to come forward. We sent letters to our Jewish clergy to ask them to speak to this from the Bima because it was Pesach time, and many of them agreed to do so, until they received phone calls from our self-appointed leaders asking them not to do so. So we did not have the support, and basically without that support, we really could not affect change. Sorry, I'm going to finish. And I'm not going to answer that. One of our issues that we have to deal with is that gay rights and pride make many people uncomfortable. Orthodox Jews, conservative Muslims, evangelical Christians do not necessarily support gay rights. But you have to hear me. This is not about gay rights. This is about being brilliant and using a great vehicle to victimize and destroy Israel and people's perceptions of Israel. So, we created a group of these extraordinary people, these activists, under the name the Veggie Chopped Liver Club. And we created some really amazing activist organizations. One of my fabulous, fabulous co-people is right over there. She's hiding. Her name is Andrea Spindell. Yes, big time. She's amazing. We have David Nitkin, Martin Gladstone, myself and others, and within the last 3 years we have created Stop Sponsoring the Hatred, the Israel Activist Alliance, the Muslim Jewish Dialogue, the Canadian Friends of Tespete, and we actively support and contribute to Weekly Press Pakistan. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on our different groups, just little like buzz lines here. But the Israel Activist Alliance is a news consolidator, distributor, that brings together news from all over the world that supports Israel and Zionism. It follows and discloses anti-Semitism and offers a place to be critical of the critics. And the web, you can get the information from me, but it's basically israelia.ca. 2, Muslim-Jewish dialogue. This is just the best thing, really. It's Toronto-based, it's independent, it's informal, and it is an effort to create dialogue between Ajami Muslims and Jews so that we can understand each other, find out what the issues are, where we're the same, where we're different on a personal level, and it creates opportunities for support. And for those of you who don't know, there are 300 million Arab Muslims. There are 700 million Ajami Muslims, and they come from a really different place. They're not inherently anti-Semitic. They really don't know anything about us. This is an incredible opportunity to make friends with people. Number 3, Weekly Press Pakistan. The person who co-founded Muslim-Jewish Dialogue with David Nitkin is Tariq Khan, who is just amazing. He's a news consolidator. Weekly Press Pakistan is a news consolidator which distributes news in English and Urdu to Muslim readers, journalists, politicians, lawyers, PR people, about Israel and the Jews and Judaism. It focuses on and celebrates and supports Zionism and encourages Muslim support. And we're working on, hopefully, Alavai, working on helping Pakistanis recognize Israel. It's aimed at the Ajami Muslims, and it's largely Sunni Muslims. 4 is my baby, and it is Tespete. Now, Yehudit touched on Tespit. Tespit is extraordinary. It is the only Israeli news service that sends out accurate releases from Israel on the ground with pro-Israel perspective. It's counterpoised to combat the negative misinformation that, do I have 5 minutes? Okay, talk fast. Misinformation that is coming from the 9 Palestinian, I know that's not the right word, Palestinian news agencies. It's non-profit, and we can get tax receipts. So you know I'm going to plug on that one in a minute. There's some other very worthwhile groups, and Andrea is responsible for one of them. It's Canadian Friends of Kulanu. It's a newly incorporated non-profit. It's aimed at assisting Jewish communities, this is fabulous, around the world that are isolated, dispersed, emerging, or re-emerging in places like Africa, China, Central America, the Philippines, Asia. It's also designed to educate Canadian Jews and non-Jews that Jews come in all colors, live on all continents, have been in every country, and contributed to the rich history everywhere. So you can get in touch with Andrea. Wave, Andrea, so everybody knows who you are, over there. Word Swap, which is an Israeli-based organization of young Israeli adults that is educating people across the globe on the diversity of Israel. These folks are aged 21 to 30. They are post-IDF service. They include Muslims, Israeli Arabs, Bedouins, Druze, European and African Jews, American and Canadian Jews, and Israeli-born Jews. And they're coming soon to Toronto. And the other group that I really want to push is Stand With Us Canada. It's recently been incorporated as a charity. It partners with Stand With Us in the United States to educate students on campuses about Israel, and it helps Jewish students to defend themselves against bias, prejudice, ignorance, and things like anti-Israel Apartheid Week. It brings programs to the wider community. It's really very, very, very important. So in summary, okay, you all know your homework. You're going to write Harper. That's number 1. Number 2, get educated. Learn from the Richard Basses, the Solomons, the Yehudits. Know what you are talking about. 2, get informed. Honest reporting. The Algemeiner, Scholars for Peace in the Middle East. These are all valuable information sources. Decide what's important to you, whether it's politics, and please get involved with civil politics this year. Whether it's local, provincial, or federal, get involved. If you are concerned about BDS, focus on that. If you're concerned about students, focus on that. Think about what you can contribute. Is it money? Is it an organizational skill? Are you a writer? Then get in touch with Shirley Ann. If you're a lawyer, we can really use you on Legal Forum. You can contribute, and you can make a difference. Please get involved. I'm really happy to take people's names, and we'll send you whatever information you want. We need help, so if you want to come and help us, we'd be thrilled. And thank you so much for listening.